Hi there. Today's topic is so timely, isn't it, with everything that's going on in the world? I actually just got back from a vacation to create some spaciousness because there was so much going on in my life, so much going on around me, and also, the pullings on my family and all sorts of stuff. And I love being an expert in the practical applied laws of physics and in the practicalities of neuroplasticity such that I can assist people to transcend that feeling of overwhelm. And I thought today we could gain some insights about change and overwhelm and some practical tools. Also, though, maybe something you've never thought of before, but being able to shift ourselves and the way that we actually perceive life and plug into life and make some permanent lasting changes in how that works instead of just needing to rely on tools all the time that sometimes you forget or in the middle of the stressful event or all the stuff that's going on you just can't remember the tool or you don't want to use it or you get resistant or you're too in fight or flight to even remember. So so those permanent cellular shifts, we're going to open some doorways to that because for me, those are much more efficient because then you don't even need the tools anymore. You literally become a person that plugs into overwhelm and change a different way, and you find freedom. That's really what this live is all about: is finding some freedom. So, some questions just to start. Do you ever feel like you're constantly juggling too many responsibilities, and no matter how hard you try, you can't seem to sort of get ahead, right? And that is an issue, not of enough tools. Okay. So there's two ways to look at overwhelm and dealing with a lot of change and dealing with lots on your plate. One is to have tools to deal with things in the immediate. And the other is, again, as I mentioned earlier, to be able to plug into life differently. So if you're constantly feeling that way, that means there's a way that you're plugging into life that isn't working right now. Also, as you change and as you take on more, you're going to get new glass ceilings that need to become your floors. So even the way you move through your evolutions, you can make a permanent cellular shift when it comes to that as well. We'll also talk about some tools. Do you find that often you are a little bit unmotivated and you don't know where to start? It's hard to make decisions, so you don't move forward easily. Finally, are you yearning for a sense of peace, the clarity that comes, from feeling really grounded, right? So if you answered yes to any of those, you're definitely in the right place. And as I said earlier, my name is Jennifer Hough. I'm the founder of The Wide Awakening. And in this episode, we're exploring how to achieve freedom from overwhelm. Just so you know, the Wide Awakening has a mission to assist, support, and empower leaders and visionaries. And it could be a leader or visionary in your home, in your business, and in your love life to make quantum leaps in their ability to thrive and flourish using the laws of physics, epigenetics, and neuroplasticity. So, in the next 12 minutes, we're going to speak about what causes overwhelm, how to change your relationship to change, and solutions that you might never have thought of before. This isn't the same old, same old. What are the root causes of overwhelm? It's good to know the root causes so that we can actually address how the heck you change, right? So first, I mean, there's some really you could probably figure out some of the root causes of overwhelm. Like there's some easy things like that you've taken on more than you perceive your abilities can handle. Now, I said that you can perceive your abilities can handle. I hope you took note of that because a lot of people just feel like it's an is that they have more on their plate that they could handle. But we're going to cause you to question that, I hope. The second is that you have committed to unreasonable buy-wins, you know? The third is that you surround your surrounding environment, like the world, never mind your country or your community, but it could be your family, it could be your business. Your surrounding environment is changing quickly. So it's everything from wars that are happening globally, because you do get affected by the billions of people on this planet. Whether they are in a war or not, there's a sense of destabilization, and it does affect you. And even if you don't think it affects you, it affects the people around you, especially people that are a little less conscious that they're being affected. And then that seeps into schools and families and businesses, etc. The fourth is that you've taken on the role of perfectionist. I myself, as a recovering perfectionist, or recovered perfectionist, I would say, am over that one, because the purpose of life is not to get it right, but we'll get into that in a second. I'm just going to be blunt with this one because, again, I'm speaking a little bit about my past self. You're terrible. And I'm going to say, instead of using the word terrible, let's use a more enlightened word like suboptimal. You're suboptimal at delegating, either to others or to your greater consciousness, to your greater awareness. You're maybe not great at remembering that you have creativity, imagination, and a connection to the greater field of consciousness. Next is that you are in fight or flight, like you just can't seem to get out of fight or flight, and you can't seem to access creativity as a result, um, because then you'd get nonlinear ideas to transcend the overwhelm. And last is that you don't really understand. Well, there's something that we teach called the thriving operating system. The thriving operating system is about making an entire paradigm shift from the way that you currently operate to an entirely different operating system, whereby you can plug into life and nothing takes you out. You actually feel like you constantly have spaciousness and nothing pulls on you like an emergency. If that sounds like a good idea, I will give you a step later that will assist you to understand that thriving operating system. So let's see what we can do about shifting your perception, or give you some tools as well. Remember, there are two distinct schools of thought on dealing with times of great change and overwhelm. One is around giving tools, giving you tools to be able to deal with that there's lots going on. But that does not actually, some of those tools actually do change your perception in the moment of what's going on, or do calm you down a bit. And you'll see I'm going to give you some of those in a second. But again, I personally, and our work at the Wide Awakening is more about, and I will talk about this, more about changing the entire way you plug into life, such that you experience a permanent sense of relief for the rest of your life, because the way you look at life is entirely different. And usually that comes from a deep understanding of the laws of physics. So, first of all, let's address this whole thing around the environment and the world and everything that's happened. I'm going to give you a question that is a question that saved my life. It's just the best question. Oh, God, it's just the best. And the question is, when everything is changing in the world and everything is so busy and there's people around you pulling on you and wanting things from you, and you've committed to all sorts of projects, when you feel those pullings, or when you feel that sense of anxiety, one of my favorite things to ask is this even mine? Is this mine to worry about? Maybe you don't even know what you're worried about. You're just feeling anxious in the world in general. Is that yours? Because if it's not yours, it's also not yours to worry about. So I put stickies all over my house asking me, is this mine? Is it mine to worry about? Is it mine to do something about? And if it's not mine, it literally gets to leave instantly. So that's where I would begin with a tool to actually um, take some of that pressure out of your life. A question that I have found tremendously helpful in my life. So the second thing uh, that I have found tremendously helpful, again, it's an in the moment tool, but it's been incredibly effective for me. And that is a 0 point reset. And you might think a 0 point reset, what the heck is that? So, what it means is when you haven't taken enough spaciousness in your day, and when I got home from my recent vacation, I had taken a lot of spaciousness, and I noticed that there were so many things waiting for me. And I noticed that I really was prone to diving right back in the way that I had, you know, dove in. What is the word? I don't care. It doesn't matter that I had approached things before. And so I caught myself and did this 0 point reset several times before I used some of the tools we use to get into a whole new flow, because I realized since my vacation, I have an intolerance to overwhelm. I'm not interested in feeling overwhelmed at all. So a 0 point looks like this. The first thing I do is I take my awareness, my consciousness, maybe we might call it your personality, and I take it, and instead of being out there with, oh my God, this needs tidying, and oh my gosh, that needs moving, and oh my gosh, I got to phone these people and just yakety yak. So my consciousness, my awareness is out in the world. And what I do is I take my awareness back behind my eyes. So I take my awareness back behind my eyes. Now my awareness is in my body. It's not of the entire world. So that's the first step of a 0 point reset. The second thing I do is I close my eyes and I imagine that all of these things that are pulling on me, I imagine sort of like I'm the middle of this spinning world, and that it's almost like I'm in the eye of a storm, and that storm creates centrifugal force that actually brings all of the stuff that's been pulling on me outside of me, like miles away. So all of a sudden, my consciousness is behind my eyes, not out in the world. And now I've created an imaginary centrifugal force that's actually moved all of the things that are pulling on me or that I've allowed to pull on me outside of me. And from here, I spend at least 3 minutes just presencing myself to this moment. Sometimes I'll put on some music or some binaural beats, and I'll just sit with it for a moment, and I'll find with that within 3 minutes, I'll get some ideas as to what actually needs my attention versus me carrying the load. By the way, one of the long-lasting thriving operating system ideas is a permanent shift in our in your uh, propensity to carry. In other words, your propensity to worry about and react to life. And so we're not going to go through that today. That really is something that requires more work than just doing a live. And honestly, it's part of what we teach. So next is if you want to transcend overwhelm and you want to find peace in these times of change and find freedom from that overwhelmed, that you actually ask the following. But first, before you ask the following, you're going to have to make a list of all the projects you have and break down. So this takes about 10 minutes to do. You break down the tasks that are associated with the projects you have. By the way, again, This is life changing. For me, this changed my life. So you make a list of everything you do and everything that you do in a day. You make a list of all the projects and the main aspects of those projects that you're responsible for. And what I do is I basically do the A to E exercise on it. The A to E exercise is basically an exercise where I apply A, B, or C to the items that are in front of me. And A things are things that energize me, that I love doing, and that I'm really good at. Those are the three characteristics of an A thing. Love doing them, give me energy, and I I'm really good at it. So if something gets an A, that's something I should do. And by the way, that aligns me with the laws of physics, because when I do things that I don't like or I'm not good at or they take away my energy, that is the first clue that it doesn't align with my trajectory forward in my most expansive life. So you can imagine, I'm not going to, again, there's more detail to this, but imagine that you mostly want to be in your A things. And if you're not in your A things, then you want to start asking questions like, can someone else do this? Does this really have to be done on the timing that I've created? So if it's not an A thing, can someone else do this? Does it really need to be done at all? Can it be done on different timing? The next one is it possible that that I can get some help, right? And last but not least, if it's not an A thing, or at least a B plus, right? Then you start to look at how it might be. Are there tools that would make it more efficient, right? So on the subject of unreasonable buy whens, my favorite thing to do is to call someone and ask them if you can change the buy when, right? So instead of just assuming that the buy when is the buy when, can you literally change it? So if you're not so good at delegating, then this is one of those things that it's going to be about creating a new habit. There's nothing we can do about it except you having the courage to actually start to ask. One of the things that's helped me is to have an accountability buddy that I go over all the things that are on my docket, and that accountability buddy actually questions me. Finally, if you're in fight or flight and you can't access the creativity you need, then um, that 0 point reset that I described is literally uh, what there is to do first. If you cannot do it for the life of you because you're way too stressed out, one of the things that I would say is crucial is you need to learn how to take a reset nap. I mean, that sounds crazy, but it actually unplugs your brain from all the issues. And when you unplug your brain from the issues, oh my gosh, um, it creates spaciousness. And when you come back to your work, you will have the mental space to be able to connect with your creativity. The other thing that I might add that is that in the long run, I always have 5 minutes before every task that I do in a day. I literally plan it into my schedule. So after this, I'll go out into my garden for 5 minutes. Sometimes I'll go and play with the dog. Sometimes, if you don't work from home, if you work in a corporate office, then it's getting up, going to get a coffee, or it's actually doing the 0 point for a bit. But if you don't clear the decks of your last task, what happens is the energy of what's pulling on you from the last thing you did starts to overcomplicate your brain, and doesn't bring your best to the next thing. You actually need to clear the decks of the last thing that you did in order to be fully available to the next thing. So, with respect to practical steps, that 0 point and the A to E exercise, you might ask, like, I get A, B, C. C is maybe something that doesn't give you energy. You're not that great at it. And you actually don't really like it. A D thing is something you really don't like you have major resistance and it takes away your energy. And the E thing is kind of like something that you have no business doing. So, like, I have no business building a rocket ship, or I have no business writing a legal contract, right? I'm not a lawyer. So, most people don't do E things, but a lot of people still do D things. That exercise, invaluable, really powerful. So I'm wondering if, oh, I see you have a question, Holly. What if you're really good at the D thing? Well, if you're really good at the D thing, but it doesn't give you energy, the fact that it doesn't give you energy means that it's out of alignment with physics. Like, it really does mean that you're out of alignment with the laws of physics. Because if you were doing something that was on path for the reason that you're alive, it would be exciting, it would thrill you. So I would start asking those other questions that I mentioned early. Can't does this actually have to be done, or is that just my ego trying to prove myself? Am I trying to justify my existence? Does it have to be done at all? Does it have to be done in the timing that I think? Just because it's in front of me, does it have to be done? Am I just sort of emotionally reacting to something? Next is, can I actually delegate this to someone else who it actually is their A thing? They might be pretty good at it and it gives them energy, right? Is there even another way to do it? So it's starting to ask those questions, Holly. Um, Anyone else have any questions about what it, because this really is a big deal. Ruthanna is saying, I finally am dealing with insomnia. What a game changer. Now I'm off to do well. So there's a physical reason. There are so many physical reasons. Having run the largest holistic practice in Canada, there are so many reasons emotionally, or sorry, physically, that we can be in overwhelm. One is adrenal exhaustion from being a perfectionist or for doing what we're talking about today for too long. Another is Hashimoto's or thyroid problems. Most thyroid problems are Hashimoto's. Most people never get checked. Then you're tired all the time. You can't think. You can't keep up. You feel demotivated. Your energy is low. All of those things. And then there's the whole idea of sleep, which, by the way, can be affected by your adrenals and your thyroid if we're looking at root causes. But sleep is massive to make sure you have what I call organ cushion, meaning you have more energy than the demands of your day, um, or the things that you have on your docket would demand. You have spaciousness, you have energetic spaciousness, which then I go back to, you really need to start looking at 5 minutes between everything you do. And this aspect, which I really recommend, there's a community that we have called Agents of Awakening, which at this point you can join Agents of Awakening for 30 days free. And I highly, highly recommend you do a search on our audios and videos about carrying, because carrying is what burns out your adrenals. And if you carry yourself, that's what burns out your thyroid. So there are some really great audios on there to get some insight about that. And Ruthanna, you're already in that community. So I would do a little search in the search bar for some audios about that you can listen to in the car ongoingly. So finally, I don't know if anyone else has any questions, but if you do, you can put them in the comments. I'll go and look at this afterwards as well. In conclusion, I just want to say, guys, that um, I don't know about you, but I'm really all about efficiency and using tools to react to when I get overwhelmed or when I feel so much change. Using tools is great, but if I have to use tools all the time, if I am constantly feeling overwhelmed and feeling like this changing world is too much for me, then what I need to do is I need to do a complete reset of the way that I'm looking at life. And one of the things that happened to me years, probably 20 years ago now, is my venture into the laws of physics and neuroplasticity. And what I came to understand was that the smallest particles of us, the metaphysical particles of us, there are laws that govern them. And part of that is that this world is built to never change because we were built to create upon what has been, not to get everything just so that we can coast. We are creative beings at our core. By definition, that means nothing will ever be perfect because there's always a way to better it. To be a creator, you're creating upon what has been. Hence, just look at how phones have changed in the last 40 years. Never mind how relationships have changed. Never mind, the tools to be able to build houses. I mean, it goes on and on and on. The fun of being alive is to create. So the faster you can make your glass ceilings new floors, and the more you can thrive and flourish through change, and you have an operating system that does that, the more you can have a life that's really worth living. And that is all about the thriving operating system. And in Agents of Awakening, our community, we actually have programs, free audios, and we also have a monthly call all about your life and how you can start to embody flourishing rather than have survival be your default. You can join that at agentsofawakening.com. You can do searches in the fields. You can ask me questions. If you jump on once a month, I'm there to answer your questions. And one of the things about me is I have so much experience with working with tens of thousands of people all over the world that, I've just become extremely adept and intuitive at being able to look at solutions, and to being able to help you. And certainly in my life, embodying the thriving operating system is something that thrills me to no end because it's life-changing. So hope that was helpful for today. Hope you use some of those tools. And for now, this is Jennifer Hough signing off with actually one of the quotes that came from when I was doing a 0-point activation or 0-point reset. And it goes like this. It goes like this. The issue is never the issue. That you made it the issue is the issue. Thanks for your questions, Holly and Ruth Anna. And thanks, Adam, for being in the background, assisting us with this live stream. Appreciate you.